I do not think that that would give the defendant any kind of a fair trial beyond what we are doing here today. I don't think there's any place in the state of Minnesota that has not been subjected to extreme amounts of publicity on this case.
All right, let's speak now to Mazama. She is a professor of Africology and African American Studies at Temple University and joins us now live from Philadelphia. Professor, as we know, this story made international headlines last year for months, but has anything changed realistically since the death of George Floyd?
First of all, good morning. I really don't think that much has changed. Because we must understand that the death of George Floyd, or the killing, the murder of George Floyd, is really part of a structural setup which itself has not changed. So no, and we can even ask ourselves if anything will change after, the trial is over.
Mm-hmm. As far as the trial, the police officer involved, Derek Chauvin, could get 40 years in prison if he's convicted of the most serious charge of second-degree murder. But what is also at stake here? Do you think that this trial could be a tipping point for race relations in America?
I truly doubt it. I think the stakes is one. It has to do with the police. The message will be, what can white cops get away with? Right, without fearing retaliation or fearing, punishment for abuses. So that would be one message. The second message really will be, what does a Black life mean in America today? And I think that would be important as well. But overall, again, as long as the structural arrangements put in place by a white racist and supremacist system remain in place, we will not see much change. Mm-hmm. So what we must really work for is really change those arrangements. How can it be done? Certainly through a massive, popular uprising of people saying, we have had enough of this. And of course, because the propaganda machine is so strong, so powerful, it is quite dubious that this will take place anytime soon. They may even use the police officer that is on trial, as a way, to assuage and alleviate, people's anger. Making him an example, so giving him, a high sentence, which he certainly deserves, as a way of placating us and making us believe that things have changed when they really haven't. So we should not be fooled either by this trial, and what it could mean overall for Black people and Black lives.
Mm-hmm. The jury in this trial consists of 9 white jurors, 4 Black jurors, and 2 who describe themselves as multiracial, and that's about all we know about the jury makeup. Do you think that that's fair and a fair and representative mix of diversity that will ensure faith of a fair outcome?
Of course not. Of course not. So already we can see, the bias. Of course not. White Americans do not make up that high of a percentage of the American population, the white people. So no, it's not. Now you may also have Black people who would, think that Black people are criminals as well. So it's not just a matter of skin color, because we've internalized a fair amount, of negative ideas about ourselves as African people. Again, that's all part of that propaganda machine that I was talking about. But certainly it is this racial composition is not representative of the overall demographics of the United States, and it already seems to indicate, that things will be not necessarily in favor of justice for Black people.
Mm-hmm. Authorities are planning an increased police presence and National Guard presence on the streets of Minneapolis during this trial. Do you think that we'll likely see more protests similar to what we saw last year, or do you think that people have moved on and they're focused on something else now?
I don't think there will be such large protests during the trial, but certainly if the verdict is not satisfactory and does not indicate some semblance of justice, I think there will be, probably violent protests, probably not on such a large scale, because you're right, people have moved on somewhat, but it's still, what happened was so atrocious that is still very much vivid on people's mind and people's heart, because it was simply horrible. To see a black man, to see a human being being murdered in broad daylight by someone who was supposed to protect citizens. I mean, that was simply outrageous, and I think very traumatic for all of us who watched that video, and certainly for George Floyd himself, since he passed away, and his family. But I think, it's still there, though. It's still there, really.
All right. I think we'll leave it there.
Right.
Professor Mazama, thank you so much for your time and sharing with us your thoughts today.